The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of Green Acres and our guests. These general gardening tips and suggestions may work for you, as well as those from alternative sources. When using any garden products or tools, read and follow all label directions.
The Green Acres Garden Podcast is the podcast dedicated to helping gardeners hone their growing skills while we celebrate our love of plants. So whether you're new to growing or a seasoned gardener, you're sure to learn something new. Join the fun as we have conversations with world-class growers, passionate green thumbs, and professional garden experts from Green Acres Nursery and Supply. Listen every week. We'll answer questions you didn't know you had. And here we grow. It's that time of week, garden friends. I hope you all had a wonderful week and you're doing well. Welcome back to the show, all you beautiful botanists and gorgeous gardeners. This is the Green Acres Garden Podcast. I'm your happy host who loves some compost, Kevin Jordan, back in it for another great episode. Man, what an amazingly busy time of year for us out in the garden, in the school, here in the pod at Green Acres. We're like a bunch of bees buzzing around. There's so much to do this time of year. I absolutely love it. So today's episode, we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about companion plants for your veggie garden to really get the most out of those vegetables and those fruit trees, all those edible plants you have. Guess what? They're going to do a whole lot better if they've got some flowering friends planted nearby, and we're going to go all into that. We're going to talk a little bit about flowers that you can plant from seed right now, directly into the soil, right into the garden. And I'm telling you, there's nothing more satisfying than planting a seed and watching that sucker sprout and grow and seeing that first blossom or plucking off that first piece of fruit. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And guess what? We'll even go into some flowers that if you're like, hey, seeds aren't my game. I need immediate satisfaction. If you're like my 5-year-old and my 2-year-olds, you want that immediate satisfaction. So we'll talk about plants that you can get as transplants, put them right into the garden. And also stay tuned because I'm going to discuss my new favorite garden tool. And I'll tell you a hint, it's not the pruners. Last week, I discussed how much I loved using this big, heavy broad fork for cultivating and loosening the soil. It's been fantastic for us at the school. The students are using it. I'm using it. It's a bit of a workout, and it works great. But I'm telling you, I got another tool that's not quite so heavy, but it's just as effective in the garden. And once I discuss it, you're going to go, okay, I got to get one of these. So with that being said, let's get right into it, garden friends. Actually, before we even start, Austin, I kind of got like a fun little garden, little sciencey fact.
Ooh, I love science stuff. What do you got,
It's
man?
pretty cool. So I always love kind of things, scientists learning new things, getting out into nature and researching, and us kind of discovering new things that we never knew possible about the world.
There seems to always be a new discovery being made, right?
Hopefully, right? If it never ends, come on. We got to keep
that.
going. So we love pollinators here, and actually a lot of what we discussed today is going to be actually in honor of them, bringing those creatures, those pollinators, those beneficial organisms into the garden. But today I'm going to talk about one weird, interesting beneficial organism that we didn't know was a pollinator.
Oh.
So check this out. So researchers from the University of Oxford and the Ethiopian Wolf Conservation Program, they have observed a behavior in Ethiopian wolves, Canis samensis for all you binomial nomenclature fans. So it's an Ethiopian wolf. It is the first large carnivore species ever documented acting as a potential pollinator.
Whoa.
And check this out. So one of my favorite plants in our garden for bringing in hummingbirds, it's Gniphofia, red hot poker.
Oh, yeah.
These Ethiopian wolves were feeding on the nectar of the red hot poker, the Gniphofia foliosa. So during their feeding, their muzzles just get covered with pollen. So they go up, they start licking, and just like a hummingbird, but they can't quite get in there. So they're pretty rough with it. They start licking the flower spikes. And they just get covered, and they go from spike to spike. They notice usually a feeding session, they might go to 30 different spikes, licking. Their faces get covered in that golden pollen, and they're realizing that these creatures may actually be helping to pollinate some of these flowers. And what's interesting is it kind of just puts our understanding of what a pollinator is on its head. We never realized, maybe large carnivores might actually have an effect on those plants. It's pretty interesting.
Wow.
Obviously, all the insects and things are doing all the heavy lifting, and the birds and whatnot, but still pretty cool. So this is the first known case of that. And hopefully...
What kind of wolf was it?
An Ethiopian wolf.
Wow.
So from halfway across the world, wolves doing really interesting things. There it is on the picture.
Oh,
very
that's a
cool.
Pretty cool looking wolf.
It looks like a little wild dog.
Yeah, it's like got a narrow snout. I wonder if we could train some of our dogs to do that kind of thing.
We may people who listening maybe you've already seen their animals kind of do stuff with plants. I know they're eating grass for their belly. It's just one of those things where there's always something new to learn, and so it gets me inspired. And so today, let's learn something new about our gardens.
I love that. Let's get into it. So to start things off, Kevin, I want to ask you a question about companion plants. Now, when we're setting up a vegetable garden, I hear that this is one of the cool things that you can do to make the plants be more successful, bring in pollinators. Sometimes companion plants deter pests or attract pests to prevent them from getting on your tomatoes or something like that. Let's get into companion plants. What are some really good companion plants for the veggie garden?
Well, you brought up a great point. There's some plants will be helpful to some of the plants that we grow. They have this symbiotic relationship where one may even be a magnet for pests to draw them away from your plants. Other ones may be a magnet for the beneficials that eat those pests. Some are bringing in pollinators to help pollinate those flowers that are going to turn into fruit. One way or another, it's just like the opposite of weeds in your garden where you're like, man, you see Bermuda grass crawling up your plants and just choking them out. A companion plant is going to be a plant that can be nearby. It won't choke out the plant. They can live together in harmony, and hopefully there will be some symbiosis where they kind of support each other. At least one will support the other. So for us, we love it. At our school garden, we do a ton of it. If you come out to the veggie garden, you've already seen it. Our garden is bordered with flowers and companion plants, tons of herbs as well, and it changes throughout the season. So it really depends on what you're growing, but you brought up some great points. Let's just start with some of the basics. I know a lot of us, tomatoes are royalty of our spring and summer gardens. So for some of those ones, the companions that you can plant around your tomatoes that'll support them, basil, borage, calendula, we've brought up that flower quite a bit. Even dill can be helpful, garlic, nasturtiums, onions, parsley, thyme. These are all beneficial plants that when they're nearby your tomatoes, they can have a positive effect. For instance, calendula can deter general garden pests, whereas even asparagus plants can be helpful, which is a big plant. Not a lot of folks are growing those in their home gardens because we need more space. But if you are, pretty good on you because those repel nematodes. You know, remember what a nematode is?
Yeah.
So some are good, some are bad.
I know about the beneficial ones, but I've never had to deal with the bad ones.
Microscopic worms that kind of live in your soil. And
so what deters those?
Asparagus plants.
Oh, that's interesting.
Basil can repel whiteflies, mosquitoes, spider mites, aphids. And basil also helps attract bees. So sometimes as that basil blooms, it's going to be a great attractor to the pollinators. That's why I even talked about today. We're planting basil out in our garden right now. Usually I wait a little bit later in the season, but it's been so warm. We'll get some rains here pretty soon, I'm sure, but I can't wait. I'm a basil fiend, and we have rows of basil in the garden, and then we actually dedicate. Well, we'll kind of have them splattered around in and around the garden, kind of tucked in near some plants. And for us, we've had amazing results. Plus, the basil's good, so we love that. So these are just examples. The borage. You ever grown borage, Austin?
I have, and it's an easy to grow plant.
Oh yeah,
I've grown it from seed, and it impressed me how many bees it attracted. It has amazing, very unique shaped little purple flowers. They're sort of alien-like. I really like the look of them. And I think they can be used in like teas and remedies and stuff, right? There's a lot going on with borage.
Yeah, the cool folks, they'll pop off those flowers and then they'll put it into like a ice tray. And you'll make frozen borage ice cubes for your cocktails, your drinks, your iced tea or whatever.
Oh, I like that.
And it looks like a beautiful little kind of bluish blossom, and they're very cool. So, tons of uses for that. But the borage will help repel hornworms. So tomatoes, we were here, those, you get the tobacco hornworm or tomato hornworm. It's a caterpillar. And they start nibbling away. You'll notice their waist looks like little green grenades on the leaves. That can help with them as well. And so it's pretty awesome. So that's just an example of what are good for tomatoes. You want to hear about a classic example of companion planting?
What's a classic example?
Well, the classic example is the Three Sisters, bud.
Oh, yes. That's the trio.
That is the trio, right? That's three that work together. Yeah. So you have corn acts as, your trellis in a way. It gives it's verticality. You get the corn growing. And then below that, you're going to have the beans growing vertically up the corn, squash growing at the base to cool the roots and smother out the weeds. The beans can use the corn, like I said, like a trellis. So it's pretty cool that you can use these dynamic plants in a way where they actually kind of benefit each other. This is why it's nice to kind of, when you see gardens and plants are kind of packed in there and there's a wide diversity of stuff you're growing, That's a good thing. That's a great thing. And then what's kind of nice, like you mentioned it, some of them are magnets. So you can have a plant that actually is just known for being a magnet of some of those pests and draw them away from the plants that we really want to succeed. So a few of our last examples for this of plant companions and allies that work really well. Marigolds, of course, we've brought up in the past. They deter nematodes and bring in other beneficials. Plus, they're just a beautiful plant, and they really fit in well with a summer garden because they're heat tolerance. Even things like, in addition to the basil that we brought up, things like chives and garlic that you grow in the garden, that can have a positive effect. So things that you're not normally considering, oh, that's a flowering plant, oh, the flowers. No, just having that herbaceous, fragrant, herby plant that has all those natural compounds in it. Sometimes there's bugs that just do not like that. So things like chives and garlic, they fit in really well in the garden and can help benefit all the other plants around there. So it's pretty cool it's like teamwork for your plants. So make sure your garden is like a big, strong, vibrant team. And typically the more members that you get together that are going to support all the the tomatoes and the melons and everything else, the better off we're going to be.
That's
so
so
companion
cool.
planting's where it's at.
I like the way you just brought that up. I like thinking of it like that way. Like your garden bed is a big team all playing together. I like that so much. But you know what? I can't help but think about like the opposite. Like, Kevin, is there a plant I should definitely not put in there like that won't be a team player?
Well, I like to mix things up in the garden, but it's about how close you get them in proximity to each other, for sure. So some considerations would be like for things like peas. If you're growing peas this spring, garlic and onion nearby tend to maybe stunt the growth of those peas and can have a negative effect. For instance, potatoes. So a lot of folks maybe are planting their potatoes now for an early summer harvest. But they also might be planting some of their tomatoes now. So they are actually susceptible to the same blight. So it's actually beneficial to not really have them in the same spot or too close to each other. Now, that means if you have them nearby in the garden, it doesn't guarantee it's going to be a failure or anything like that. It just means, hey, you might open yourself up. So there's like plant enemies.
Wait, potatoes and tomatoes don't put together.
Yeah, you don't want them too close to each other. Or, and also don't plant your tomato in the same spot where you just pulled out your potatoes, because they're in the same they're in the same plant family.
Right.
They are susceptible to similar diseases and pests and whatnot. So it's good to and that's where it gets back to crop rotation. Even in our gardens, it can be beneficial. So it's one of those things. Even for things like carrots, you don't want dill nearby your carrots because that can slow down the growth of those carrots. And so hopefully we'll learn more and more about this as more research is available. But just as how some plants are harmful, I think it makes sense because some plants harm each other and they're not helpful to each other. And so this makes total sense.
Sure.
And so I feel like if you want to be successful out in that garden, find good teammates for the rest of your plants.
Right. There we go. I love that. Okay. Thank you so much for filling us in on companion plants in our veggie garden. That's exciting because I know a lot of people are starting to plant their vegetable gardens, and we should be thinking about what kind of companion plants are going to be team players. I like that.
Nasturtiums, another one.
Ooh,
Boom.
There we go. Now I'm thinking about flowers now. So I want us to talk a little bit about what flowers we can be planting by seed right now. Maybe they are companion plants, but what are your big showstoppers? What are your big, or maybe they serve a different role, but what flowers are you thinking about planting by seed right now, Kevin?
God, one thing I love about planting by seed is it's, like I said, it's so fun to watch them sprout up and grow. But honestly, I just love the price. They're very affordable. You get way more variety and selection at your fingertips right away. You don't have to wait for anything. But so I absolutely love planting from seed. But let's get into it. So for right now, we're at the end of March. It's going to be early April pretty soon, heading into May. So at the top of the list, alyssum. We love it. It's a beautiful plant. Has a lot of beneficial qualities to it, and it grows pretty easily. Asters. You could plant asters right now from seed, and they are just beautiful little flowers that'll give you some color. Celosia, have you seen that?
No.
You should look it up sometime. Celosia. Yeah, I used to date a celosia. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's a beautiful plant. Sometimes they call it coxcomb or whatever, and they don't look like real flowers. Huh. They look like they look artificial, but they're not. and they're so beautiful, and there's a lot of variety. But when I'm telling you, when you look at the flowers that blossom, if you drew a picture of a flower, it would not look like these. So they're so unique. They're very beautiful, and you can plant them this time of year. I really enjoy them. One that we've brought up in the past, but I'm crazy for them. But this is a perfect time to start them from seed. I've even noticed some that we've started in the garden last year have even reseeded a little bit. And I'm talking about Cosmos. They do a great job this time of year. Really easy to start. Things like also, of course, marigolds, gomphrena. We've planted that as a plant in our garden. Great one for pollinators. Salvia, your scabiosa, the pincushion flower. I know you've seen those. Mm-hmm. That's a great one for bringing in pollinators such as butterflies, because their flowers like big kind of landing pads for them. These are all ones you can plant from seed right now, and if you do, just make sure you follow the directions as far as how deep and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Usually the larger the seed, the deeper you go. The smaller the seed, closer to the surface.
Most of these are smaller seeds, right?
A lot of them, but you'd be shocked. Like we talk about nasturtiums. We're kind of at the end of the season for starting them by seed, but you probably could still squeak some in. But those look like little rocks. Looks like a little pebble. They're pretty big. Whereas most of them sometimes are pretty tiny. Like, you ever seen a snapdragon seed? You ever seen a foxglove seed? Holy moly! They look like grains of dust. And we actually did grow some foxglove from seed this year. And I was amazed, because you plant it, you're like, how is this going to grow?
And it becomes like a pretty substantial flower too.
Oh, for sure.
That's
yeah,
a pretty
right.
Big plant
yes.
out of like a little speck of dust.
It lets you know, hey, it's like, don't worry about it. Life, if you just keep working, keep pushing, humble beginnings, you can have amazing endings and success. So very cool. But one I really want to hammer in, because this is an amazing plant, and I think every garden should have a few of these in it. And what's cool is they are so diverse as far as the different choices you can get, the colors and the sizes. And this is a classic garden flower, Austin. I'm talking about sunflowers, bud.
Oh, you love sunflowers.
I do. So we're finally in the warmth of the year. We're planting sunflowers by seed. They'll just they'll pop right up. And in the past, we love growing the big ones at the school. We did the mammoths and the Mongolian giants. I mean, they're 12, 13, 14 feet tall. Some of them had flower, it was a foot or two across.
I think that's a little too big. I like the smaller ones.
That's actually a great point. And
okay.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And so that's the cool part about it. There's sunflowers that get like a foot tall, 2 feet tall, 3 feet tall. Some that aren't just that classic yellow. You'll get some that are like burgundy and like deep orange, and they'll have streaks in them. So if you're like, I don't need a 12-footer in my front yard, although I might have one for some show. But they are amazing for attracting pollinators. They are just like the corn was used earlier in our discussion about the Three Sisters. You could actually use them as a natural trellis as well. You grow them up, and then you can have climbing beans climb up your sunflowers.
Oh, cool.
No need to go out and purchase anything, I guess, in that regard for the staking. So it's really cool to see what other gardeners get creative with. And so I've seen that before. Very cool. But sunflowers in general, large seed, easy to plant, and there's so many to choose from. Like Austin said, if you don't want a 14-footer, you can get a shorter one. But honestly, I think they belong in every edible, veggie garden or whatever. They're substantially beautiful, and just they do so much, and the effort that you put in to keep them healthy, is minimal. So for me, I like that.
Nice. All right. That is exciting. And there's a lot of flowers in there that we can be planting by seed right now. And I know for certain that you have done amazing things with alyssum.
Oh, yeah.
I've had great success with borage and sunflowers. Yeah, it's cool to think about the diversity of that group right there. So I want to take a small diversion and talk about, if we're not going to go by seed, there's actually a lot of flowers available now that we can buy and we can directly plant.
Absolutely.
So what are your top picks for flowers to plant right now for it's the beginning of spring now. Let's get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess it might depend on your garden and how much sun you get. But basically everything we listed, you could also get as a starter, as a transplant. But some of that were on the list that weren't on this list as far as direct seed, but plants I love for the garden. Echinacea.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So good.
An amazing plant. Just draws in the pollinators, looks great. Just a staple. And those ones you can get as pre-grown that are pretty substantial. And once you get them growing, they are, I would say, difficult to harm because they're so resilient. I love them. Yeah, Echinacea. Another one, cornflower. Very beautiful little flower. Almost looks like a wildflower in a way, But those are another one that will bring in some color. Usually you'll see them, they're like this bright, vibrant blue, and I just absolutely just go crazy for them. We've discussed the marigolds. If you don't want to wait around for seed, you'll see those everywhere at the nurseries. We brought it up, and whether you plant this one by seed or transplant, this, I think every veggie garden needs to have zinnias. They're amazing. Pollinators love them. Even some hummingbirds you'll see get brought in. Butterflies love it. And so zinnias are an amazing one. And whether honestly, they grow those from seed as well. But if you don't want to wait, then transplant it. But those have been fantastic for us. Even things like your salvias. You can still plant snapdragons a little bit, but the heat's going to cook them off pretty soon. But those are all great as well. I just think more flowers, the better. The ones I listed are pretty solid. Calendula is one that will do well right now. If it's a little late in the season to start it by seed, but if you got it growing already in the garden, it'll do well for you. And that looks like, they call it the pot marigold, so it has some similarities there. But they're just an awesome plant, and one that I will say that you don't want to start it from seed right now, but you can plant it, especially if you have a place where you're like, man, I get a little bit of light, but it's never enough sun to really get something blooming and get a ton of color because it's so shady. Coleus. They're
Is
rad.
That a flower?
They do flower, but they're grown mostly for the foliage.
Yeah, the foliage is so rich in
bright
color.
greens and pinks and just burgundies. The leaves themselves are gorgeous. They will flower, these little flowers, and then the flowers are beautiful too, but they're just so known for their wild colors and even leaf shapes as well and structure. But Coleus is one. So if you have a shadier spot of your garden, you're like, man, want to do something interesting or unique. I've seen people try to grow them as a house plant, but they just never seem to do unless you live in a greenhouse. They're just never that happy. But on a porch or whatever, or in a sheltered area, Coleus, awesome choice.
Yeah, I had a cool hanging basket with a ton of Coleus in it last year. I love that thing. It was fun to watch and to prune. Like, I think you want to be on it, but pruning those kinds of things.
Keep it from getting too leggy.
Yeah, and then it just looks better and better. So that is cool. I like that. Thank you so much.
And then a companion for the Coleus.
Oh, there's a companion for Coleus.
Let's interweave our themes. Coleus, they want some friends. Give them some impatiens.
Okay.
Whether it's the standard or the New Guinea. You ever seen the New Guinea impatiens?
No.
They're really rad. They have a bigger leaf. They get a little bit larger, and they have like kind of a juicy, kind of very kind of sumptuous, succulent-looking stem, almost like a succulent. And they're so cool, but the same thing, they do well in shadier spots with a little dapple, maybe morning sun, afternoon shade kind of deal. But impatiens are awesome. So cool. And they will do really well alongside those Coleus in that same kind of conditions.
Okay, right on. Well, I hope people are getting inspired to plant some flowers. It is such a good thing to do in your garden. You're going to bring in the pollinators. You're going to bring yourself into the garden because you're going to want to be looking at those flowers. Let's go ahead and I want to know your secret tool. You haven't told me. You had a tool you talked about last episode, the broad fork.
Yeah.
And you said you have another tool. So I'm so curious to know, Kevin. Let's call this tool time. And go ahead and tell me about your tool of the week.
Al Borland, Austin Blank. I'm sensing a connection. All right. Well, for tool time this week, I'm talking about my new favorite garden tool, one that I'm always carrying into the garden with me every time now. It used to be my pruners, and it still is. But alongside that, I'm talking about my Hori Hori knife.
Oh,
or Hori Hori.
It's like a multi-tool.
Very much so. Some people will call it a digging knife or a soil knife. In Japanese, the word I'm probably pronouncing this terribly. Ori or hori means to dig, so it's a digging knife, and it's a simple tool, and it's not a knife you're going to go cut your steak with or anything like that. It's just like a little. It's like a spade with sass, and so you can use it for digging, planting. It'll have kind of a serrated edge you can sharpen and actually cut through roots because sometimes you're working and you're like you see a plant you want to rip out. The shovel's too far and too overkill. You don't want to get your pruners down in that dirt and damage the blade. The Hori Hori knife does it all. So you can plant, you can weed, you can cultivate. There's so much you can do with it. You can use it for cutting string as you're out in the garden and doing stuff. So like you mentioned, it pretty much is a multi-tool. Very simple to use, easy to take care of. There's a lot of different brands and styles out there. But ultimately, I would say if you're at the nursery, just take a look and then try one out because it is like having just a perfect little companion with you in the garden. It's not heavy. It's really easy to move around. But yeah, that digging knife, the soil knife, your hoary knife. Try one out. I'm telling you, if you're out in the garden and you're kind of down in the dirt all the time, the best tool, because you can get so much done. And then by the time I get back in the back inside the house, my fingers aren't all torn up. I'm not hurting because the tool did all the effort. So consider that, because for me, I gardened for years without having it, Austin. And then now these last few years of using it, I'm like, what was I doing?
Nice. You figured it out, how to use the hori. That's so cool. So that, I agree, is a cool tool. It's got a cool name, it's got a cool look, and it's got a cool function. So if you don't have one, maybe check it out. I think it also just kind of makes you look cool to wear one.
It's sassy. And like I said, it's like a digging spade, but with a serrated edge, and they're a little bit easier to use. And man, they're just fantastic.
Right on. Okay, so thank you for sharing your tool of the week, Kevin. That was fun. I have a couple bonus questions I want to throw at you.
Please.
These are topics that we, had set out for the week, but I've been hearing them floating around at the store. I've heard from online people talking about these things. I wonder if these are sort of like garden myths that you could dispel.
Let's do it.
Because a lot of people are getting into gardening and they have a lot of questions, and I want to throw some at you and see what you think about these.
Please,
all right?
Fire away.
So, Kevin, I saw somebody asking about planting sweet peppers by their hot peppers, and they're concerned that the sweet peppers are going to take on some of the heat from the hot peppers. So like maybe they'd end up with a spicy bell pepper, but is that even possible?
I'm going to go ahead and say no. I'm
Okay,
going to
for
say
sure
I'm going to
no.
say myth busted for the most part.
Okay.
99%, right? You never
that's
know
good.
in nature.
Because we want those things separate.
Yeah, so absolutely. So how that works, so in our garden at school, we grow everything from the sweetest of the sweet to the hottest of the hot. We had ghost peppers in the garden and bell peppers, right? And everything in between. And our bell peppers were sweet and delicious, and our hot peppers were hot. That is a miss. It is a miss. It is a total myth, because what's happening is those plants are going to grow independently of each other, and that fruit will develop just as it would. Even if the pollen from one spicy pepper gets into their sweet pepper, it won't affect the flavor of the fruit. But what it could do, so there is a little hint of truth to this myth. Like every good lie, there's a hint of truth. The hint of truth is actually there is a possibility that you could, if you wanted to save your seed to replant, let's say you got some bell peppers and you're like, man, I want to keep these as bell peppers, but you got them right next to all your hot peppers. There is a possibility that those other peppers may cross-pollinate, not affecting that generation's fruit flavor.
But the next
one.
But
the seeds inside that they contain may contain the they may contain the genetics.
Interesting.
And
so
then
you could feasibly cross like a cayenne pepper with some kind of like a bell pepper or
potentially, yeah. I mean, we've talked with our buddy Smokin' Ed Curry out there on the East Coast, out in the Carolinas, where he's developed the world's hottest peppers, and he's doing it just by cross-pollinating different varieties. And it takes years and years and years to kind of get the genetics stabilized and to get the qualities and characteristics you're after. But in our own home gardens, if you're purchasing seed and you're planting those peppers, they're not going to affect each other in that regard. You're not going to harvest a bell pepper and eat it and go, oh my gosh. At least, at the best, you might have seeds that you could harvest that may have some of that heat in them in the next generation. I'd be curious to try that out. That might be kind of fun. But in our school garden, we've never had that happen.
Got it.
And I'm pretty sure that is myth busted.
Awesome. I like when a myth gets busted. Brings me back to one of my favorite TV shows,
Loved
Mythbusters.
it. Oh,
man.
come on.
Okay, so I have another one for you, and I've seen this quite a bit, and that's people using eggshells in their garden, and I've seen pretty big chunks getting spread out on top of the soil, and the thinking is that eggshell is going to get worked into the soil and provide nutrients, I guess calcium, to their plants, but I feel like it's not an effective way to do it, and that it's not working. Maybe there's a better way. Kevin, what do you think about people using eggshell in the garden?
If it makes you feel good, do it.
Okay.
But as far as it being like the most effective way to get calcium to your plants right away, likely not. because and I compost eggshells. We have the kids bring it from home or at our culinary cafe.
It's readily available. We have tons of it.
So what we do is we try to crush it up as fine as we can get, and then we feed it into the worms, let the worms kind of work their way through it, and then they excrete it out. And hopefully at that point it's a little bit more broken down and more available to the plants. If you're just crushing it up and throw it in your soil, it's going to take a long time for that calcium to be unlocked and broken up in a way where the plants can actually access that calcium. And oftentimes we brought up in the past the blossom end rot that people are getting on their tomatoes is a calcium deficiency, but it's typically not because your soil is deficient of calcium. It has to do more with watering practices more than anything. And so if you're adding your eggshells to your garden and it makes you feel good, do it. It's not a bad thing. I don't think it's going to be harming anything. And there may be some benefits that we haven't quite learned yet. But if you really want, if your purpose is like, I want to build up my soil, and so crush them up really fine. I mean, like almost like mortar and pestle style, and then just add it into your compost. Let it break down in there, and then that compost will then make its way into your garden. But if it's working for you, I don't want to stop that. And gardening's about being creative and trying new things. Science is there to kind of help support the things we do, and kind of like the myth busting of put rocks at the bottom of your pot because that'll help improve drainage. No, that does the opposite. It actually reduces drainage and isn't helpful at all. And that is actually been scientifically debunked.
Well, let me ask you, if I did just like crush up with my hand some eggshell and I threw it in the garden, maybe I stepped it on it a little bit or something like that, you're going to get a little bit of fine powder out of it, but most of it's going to stay big, and you're saying it's not going to benefit those plants this season. It might be
it'll take time,
a year or 2 year or down the
take a while.
A long
so, yeah,
time.
So it's not I don't think it's going to be harmful or anything like that. Okay. And like I said, there may even be benefits that we haven't even unlocked yet. But if it's for the calcium and you're like, just realize you got to crush it up really fine, and then even time has to do its thing. The microbes have to work against it, work on it and break those things down, so that way the plants can actually extract that calcium and actually have it in usable form. There's things that you can do to add calcium. We talk about all the different organic amendments.
Sure.
So there's a lot of options out there. Just go down that aisle.
Sure.
You'll see the bone meal and all these other things out there.
That reminds me, somebody at my community garden just shared some of the results from them doing some soil testing, and it was fascinating.
Yeah.
I think it was just incredibly fascinating. So if you think you know about your soil, maybe just double check and do a quick soil test, and you might realize it's a little bit different than you thought. Right?
I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing to know. And we all have subtly different soils, right? And we've been doing different gardening practices. So I love that. And the soil is where it all begins, right? That's what I've learned from you, Kevin.
Well, if you want
soil is so important.
Yes. If you want to feed your plants, just feed your soil first. If you feed that soil, you build it up with organic amendments. You aerate it, you cultivate it, and you keep feeding it. Even if you started off with a really great soil last year or the year before, you've got to replenish it. Mm-hmm. We talked about, the broad fork, right? If you're a little bit older, or you just you don't have the physical capability to get out there and be really digging hard in the soil, guess what? You can still be an amazing gardener. You just cultivate differently, and to do that, you just do top dressing. If you start adding 2 to 3 inches of compost, just laying it on top of your soil, not even working it in or digging it up, just year after year, season after season, just adding a few inches of compost every time. Dude, over time, Austin, that is going to break down, and you are going to have rich, that black gold looking soil, and it's all done without having to even lift a shovel or the broad fork. And it just takes a little more time and just top dressings of compost. So feed your soil, and the soil will feed your plants, and the plants will feed you.
Oh, I love that. All right. Well, what great topics we covered today. I'm inspired, and I hope all of our listeners are as well. It's busy time. It's spring. So I hope everyone is getting out there, getting some of this beautiful sunshine, and enjoying the beginnings of this wonderful season where we get to grow whatever we want to grow, because we're in the best area for growing. I love it. That's all for this week. Kevin, go ahead and take us out.
Wow, it's been awesome. It's been a couple amazing weeks out in the garden. I'm so happy to be back here talking with all of you. I highly encourage you, please get out in that garden, work that soil, feed it, plant some flowers, start thinking about what you're going to do this spring. What are you going to do this summer? What do you want your spring and summer to look like? What do you want to be eating? Because guess what? If you plant it right now, by the time summer comes around, hopefully it'll be harvest season. So I want to wish you all an amazing week, garden friends. Truly, I wish you all are doing the absolute best. Please check in with us. I want to hear about your favorite garden tool. So please let me know about it in our Facebook group. So that's the Green Acres Garden Podcast group. So please reach out to us there. I'd love to hear what you're growing or what your favorite tools are. And I want to learn from you just the same because I just love it. So I think this is going to be an amazing season. Let's all be optimistic together and push yourself to just grow, grow, grow. And I think this is going to be an amazing spring and summer. Wishing you all the best, garden friends. Until next time, happy gardening to you all. And please, never stop growing.